Hello and welcome to my channel, Wolf Aqua, your channel about horticulture, aquaponics and aquaculture. And today I would like to present you the first episode of Aquaponics My Story, so how I got to the topic of aquaponics, and let's go! So the reason why I'm gonna make these videos is that you can learn from my experience and my mistakes that I did during the last 10 years. And that's why also at the end of the video there will be always like a small section with learnings that I did during that season. Furthermore, for me, like as for many of you as well I guess, it all started on YouTube. So in that sense it's nice to also give something back. How did it all start? Like back in the days, kind of 10 years ago, I was just in the middle of my education as a biotechnical assistant. So just a short explanation, a biotechnical assistant is working in the lab and works with genetic engineering, materials, funguses, human cell culture, and learns a lot about quantitative analysis like photometric measures and so on and so forth. And well, one evening I just was watching videos about aquaculture because I really like fish since a young age, and then suddenly I got a video suggested like about aquaponics. At first I was really not interested at all, but after a while all aquaculture videos were watched, and then I give it a try, to watch one of those aquaponics videos, and then suddenly like, wow, that's the thing I really would like to do, right? Because I could combine both my passions for gardening and fish at the same time in one thing, and it was like, wow, that really triggered my mind, and that was really a life-changing moment for me. And since then, I think since then there was not even one single day without thinking in one way or the other about aquaponics, right? And then I did some research and like, okay, how can I educate myself specifically in that direction? Because of course there was no aquaponics course or something like that available in these days. And so I found a master program in aquaculture, but then I figured out, for a master I need a bachelor. And for the bachelor I need a degree that I didn't have at that time. Right, so I saved you the details of the German school system. So anyway, long story short, I got that degree, I finished my education as biotechnical assistant and moved on to study agriculture in Bonn. But we have this phrase here in Germany, testing is better than studying, where I think both helps a lot. So probieren geht über studieren. And so I did. So in 2011 I already started building my own small-scale aquaponic systems in the basement of my parents. And that's what I'm going to show you now on the screen. So this is how it all started. 3 fish tanks with each 160 liter or around 42 gallons, 3 black tanks as grow beds. Each fish tank had a heater, a normal aquarium filter and a feeding machine. As light I used 2 times 200 watts CFL lights. I drilled holes in the reflector to prevent that the heat is too much stuck underneath the lamp, to extend the shelf life of my light bulbs. And to monitor my water quality, I got myself quite some test equipment. I let cycle all the systems for around 2 weeks before I start the first time fish into them. I know it can be way longer, like up to 6 weeks to cycle them properly, but back in the days I was quite unexperienced. And I bought a fish called Tilapia mariae, which is a very pretty fish, but in my opinion is not a very good fish for food production. As plants I started with cucumbers, lettuces, kohlrabi and quite some other herbs. The culture method I used was kind of a deep water culture, so where the roots are straight growing into the water. The water got periodically exchanged between the fish tanks and the grow beds via a time switch. Soon I noticed that the available nutrients were not enough to support proper plant growth. That's why I started to feed my fish more, but guess what? My water treatment system could not keep up with the increased feeding load. That's why I tried to increase the surface area by adding expanded clay pebbles to the system. Furthermore, the pH was not in a satisfying range with a value of 7.5 to 8. So to lower the pH I installed kind of a peat pillow in the inlet of my grow beds to lower naturally the pH down. That and the ongoing cycling process changed the color of the water and the pH over the time. The whole indoor section just served actually to pre-grow my fish and plants for the outer season to come. And that's how my outdoor system looked like. On the very right was my sump tank with a pump hooked up to a time switch that periodically pumped water to my fish tank. On the very left side. The fish tank then drained into the first 2 grow beds. And then the first 2 grow beds drained in the third one, and from the third grow bed it drained back to the sump. At the beginning of May, time was right to bring out the first plants and fish. To not only heat the water with electricity, which is quite costly, I tried to install a biomeiler, what works in such a way that the excess heat of a decaying, rotting organic material is used to heat water, for example. For that, I bended a copper pipe to a spiral and soldered right fittings to the ends to connect the hose to it. After that, I filled up the barrel with kind of chipped wood materials. I really make it soaking wet with water, and at the beginning it really worked and I had quite some great heat production. However, after a rather short time the material dried out and the whole heating process stopped. And in the end, it's not that easy to have a constant heat supply in such a small volume of organic matter, of rotting organic matter. On the fish side, I got myself a breeding couple of green or natural colored Nile tilapia, just because the mouth of that fish is so much bigger and the growth performance is way better compared to the Tilapia mariae I used before. And even before I planted all my plants, the first head of lettuce was ready to eat. During the season everything grew nicely and strong, and that even without adding any nutrients like iron and such. But the fish grew way slower than I expected. Anyway, the plants looked good and soon the first fruits appeared on my plants. I was really amazed how strong and vital the tomato plants grew in that aquaponic system. Next to my aquaponic system, I also cultivated some strawberries and blueberries in my garden. So I further stacked up my fish cohort with a breeding group of red tilapia. So it was like 3 females and 1 male, and the special thing was that this male was a so-called super male. So this male had like YY chromosomes, which lead that the offspring is actually to almost 100% male only. And that's actually very desirable for tilapia culture, because males grow faster and bigger than females. However, for example in trout it's the other way around. There you want to have more females because the females grow bigger than the males does. But that's a different story. With the progressing season, more and more fruits showed up and kohlrabis got harvested. However, it became more and more clear that the fish will not make it to a table size at the end. That's why I started to set up a system to bring them over the winter time. On the other side, I had to split my breeding couples because some male fish got really aggressive and I wanted to protect my females. At the end of the season, a storm shook up my plants quite a lot. However, in the end, I could harvest quite some chilies and tomatoes. By the way, super spicy chilies that burned my mouth quite a lot. And as I promised at the beginning of the video, here are my learnings of the season. So I would change no substrate in the fish tanks. It's an awful job to clean that. Normal fish tank equipment, like for ornamental fish, is too weak for fish production. In and outlets for water flow needs to be big enough. Tilapia mariae, in my opinion, is not a good food fish. Use pipes instead of hoses. Permanent water treatment, like permanent water circulation in your fish tank, is really needed. And don't plant out too early. I mean, you can have freezing nights and then all your plants are dead. This was the first episode of Aquaponic My Story. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you have any questions or remarks, just post it in the comments below. Further, I put you in the video description a link to my homepage where you can find further details about me. And I would be very, very happy if you subscribe and like my channel. And then I would say, I see you next time.